Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here in my quaint and cozy little converted garage. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined today, coming to us all the way from the Robservatory, one Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing today, sir?
I am doing extraordinarily well.
I love that shirt, by the way.
Oh,
True Noir. Everybody should go out and get it. Go acquire it. Did I hear you say it's even available on physical media now? Is that true?
I just got the CD yesterday that was sent to me by our publisher.
Awesome. Keep an eye on that, everybody. And also, everyone, we've got a celebrity in the house today. You might know her as the star of Marvel's Punisher, One Last Kill. We, of course, and you guys know, we've had her on the show here before. We've got Nadia Martinez, a.k.a. Gotham Geek Girl, is here today. How you doing, Nadia?
Hey, guys. Coming in from New York.
All the way from New York. Good to have you here. We're glad you were able to have some time and join us here today. It's going to be fun having you here. And, of course, most importantly, guys, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a number of predetermined topics we got lined up for you guys. Then in the second part of the show is when I'm going to take your live comments and questions. If you have a thought, theory, opinion, question, or a topic you'd like me to address, as long as I deem it appropriate to be addressed on the show, go ahead and fire it on into the super chats, and we'll get to those in the second part of the show. Also, going to let you guys know this. It is not in today's show topic list, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Near the end of the show, I will address that little thing I talked about with Avengers Doomsday and some not so positive stuff I'm hearing coming out of that. Now, the reason we're going to address that a little bit later in the show, and the reason I'm not making it its own individual topic, and the reason I'm not going to segment it out as its own individual video, is because I don't want to be accused of just doing it for clicks. So I'm not going to get any clicks out of it. All right. So we'll talk about it in the main show later in the show, but it will not be segmented out as its own video. So we'll get around to that in a few minutes here. All right. With that down, guys, let's get things started here, shall we? And we're going to start off with this. You know, we were talking about Moana. The reviews came out for Moana. Not good. Not great. I mean, some of the critics liked it. Some of them did, but the vast majority of them did it. The last I checked, it had a 33% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is pretty unfortunate because, you know, I'm all for Moana doing the live action thing. I really am. I'm all for it. I don't see any problem with doing it. I think when you make a live action out of something, it creates a completely unique experience, even if it's the exact same story. I was totally for the idea that they decided to get Dwayne Johnson to come back and actually do the role of Maui himself. I was all for it. Didn't love the trailers. Actually, really didn't quite like the first one. I thought the second one was much better, but still not great, but whatever. Reviews came out, they're terrible. And now, as is being reported here by our friends over at Joe Blow, the box office prediction for Moana is not so great. Now, you've got to remember that Moana 2, the animated film, was a $1 billion film. $1 billion film. They're saying that Moana, the live action, which when first announced, there are absolutely visions of it having the potential of being a $1 billion film as well, if it's good and all that kind of stuff. Well, they're saying that it is right now being projected to open to $45 million. Now, to put that into perspective, now for some movies, that would be considered great. I'm not going to brush over that. Yeah, for sure. For some movies, if they got a $45 million opening weekend, they would consider that great. However, it's not really the same thing if you're Moana. Because if we go over and take a look at this, the first Moana, all the way back in 2016, that opened to $56.6 million before anybody knew what Moana was, before it became the global streaming sensation where it was like the number one streamed movie for 4 years in a row. That opened to $56.6 million. Moana 2 opened to $139.7 million. $139.7 million. But Moana, this one, the live action, is not just opening practically 3 times lower than Moana 2 did. it's opening even below the original Moana. And that has got to be kind of considered a little bit of a disaster for them. Again, 45 million could be worse. But in context, guys, I think it's one thing. It would have been okay that it not open as big as Moana 2, because that was a monstrous opening. That's fine. But you got to at least think it's going to open bigger than the original Moana now that the franchise is so big. The last movie made over $1 billion, but word of mouth and reviews do a lot. And I would also suspect, and I hate saying this because he's probably my second favorite movie star. I think there is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson fatigue. Now it's going to be interesting to see if that's true when Jumanji comes out, because I love those movies, but I guess it just didn't click with people. Rob, we saw the reviews, not great. I actually canceled my tickets to go see it today. Wow. The reviews are bad enough, and I heard from enough people that I know that saw it. I'm like, I'd rather sit home and watch the World Cup this afternoon, quite frankly. So I'm going to take a pass on Moana, but still, I would have thought it would open to more than 45. How did this strike you? Is this surprising, not surprising? What do you attribute it to?
John, since we've been seeing live action trailers for this movie, I have found myself, I try and look at things objectively, even if it's not something that's my speed. I still examine from my own perspective marketing materials, and because even if I don't have a huge want to see factor, you can still see if a movie's being well marketed. Objectively, you can look at. I've watched this movie and I've found the material. The materials, the trailers and things to be strangely distancing. Like, I've looked at this and I'm like, because I really liked the first Moana.
Oh, I love it.
And I watch these trailers and they've never clicked for me. Some they got better. And I've asked myself, what is it about this movie that I don't think clicks very well? And you know what? I think this movie is too much of a hybrid. When you're looking at it, it doesn't really look like a live action movie that's set like they went and filmed it on the ocean. It looks like it looks animated. Most of it does. The effects, the set pieces, they're not set in quote unquote the real world. And like when you watch, say, Cinderella, our beloved Cinderella, that Kenneth Branagh,
love that movie.
You have effects, but you're watching a movie that's shot on real sets, with real people, and it's not a hybridization where you're seeing all of these CG creatures and things that look like they belong in an animated movie. So when you're watching this, I think that's what probably has distanced me. It just doesn't look like something. I'd rather go back and watch the original.
Yeah, I like, we talked before about the fact that I'm even okay with a live action adaptation doing beat for beat. I'm cool with that. But while doing it beat for beat, you've got to breathe a different kind of soul into it and give it its own life.
Yes.
And the marketing materials for this just kind of felt a little bit lifeless. Nadia, I think you were at CinemaCon. You saw the previews for it and all that kind of stuff. What were your thoughts about them even doing it? Are you surprised to see that the projections are this low? Can they beat it? And what do you attribute it to?
I feel like audience enthusiasm. I think Chris is right. Shout out to my homie Chris. I think he's right that audience enthusiasm for live action Disney movies right now is kind of fading in general. I don't think there's been enough that have hit well enough where people are like completely sold on the idea. And that's kind of sad because there's so much that they can pull to make a live action adaptation. The source is right there. Like you said, like literally this was almost beat for beat. Like, how do you get that wrong? So it's kind of sad that audiences and influencers, journalists, critics, everyone, I think kind of has the same feeling. Like even a lot of my influencer friends that love Disney were not excited for this movie. So it's kind of sad to see that. In terms of like the CGI and everything, it didn't look that great to me. It looks like green screen, and I'm a practical girly, and something like this, like you said, they literally could have went to the beach. Like why can't you just go to the beach and have like a beautiful set and beautiful colors and the costuming, like all of that should come to life. And to make it drab and just a green screen and poor CGI is another letdown again.
Yeah, I heard a few people say it kind of looks like they shot it on the volume. Although we know for a fact they did go to location in Hawaii and
Mhm.
shoot some stuff there, but you're right. It kind of feels like it's shot on the volume. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The opening weekend projections for Moana are pretty low considering the hype and the size of the franchise. It's going to open to a franchise lowest, they're saying around $45 million. Maybe it can come in higher than that. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on and talk about this, shall we? Well, yesterday, the Emmy nominations, all the nominees got made public and all the nominations were announced. And I was really excited about a couple of them. One of them, Yahya Abdul-Mateen, got nominated for Best Actor in a Comedy Series for Wonder Man. I thought that was great. But One of the great surprises for me was that A Night of the Seven Kingdoms got nominated for the top prize at the Emmys, Best Drama Series, which I loved it. But as some people pointed out to me in the comments section, we didn't actually discuss the category as a whole or who should actually win it. So I thought, guys, it would be fun. Take a few minutes here. We're going to look at the nominees for Best Series and who we think should win top award for the Best Series of the year. Let's take a look at the nominees. The nominees for Best Series, Best Drama Series, which is, of course, their top prize, are The Diplomat, The Gilded Age, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, Paradise, The Pit, Pluribus, Slow Horses, and Your Friends and Neighbors. Now, before we get into it, I'm going to acknowledge up front, there are two shows on here that I haven't seen at all. I have not seen The Gilded Age, and I have not seen Slow Horses. Slow Horses is a show that, by the way, everybody tells me I need to get on. Gary Oldman's a star, so obviously I got to give that one a shot soon. So I'm obviously going to be limiting my picks to The Diplomat, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, Paradise, The Pit, Pluribus, and Your Friends and Neighbors. All of them fabulous shows. All of them really good. And you guys know, I think Paradise was a really great surprise hit for me. Like, I was interested in it when they first showed. Then we watched, Rob, I think you were the same. We watched the first season. It's like, oh my God, like, it's so good. And season 2 is so good. It's great. And you guys know how much I love Night of the Seven Kingdoms. But for me, honestly, it's not even a hard choice. The Pit is the best show on TV. I mean, on the comedy side, it's shrinking. But, I mean, when it comes to drama series, I don't even think it's remotely close. I think it's The Pit. That is a show that very few shows have been able to do to me, where I instantly, within 3 or 4 seconds of the show coming on, I get absorbed into it. And then it's almost like being woken up out of a dream when the screen goes black and the credits roll at the end of an episode. I'm like, wait, what? What is over? And I count down the days until the next episode. I mean, it won all the awards last year. I think they've got, guys, I think it's got something like 10 acting nominations for it, which tells you something about the level of the cast. I think Bryan Cranston's daughter is in it too. But so for me, I'm going to go with The Pit. That's my pick for Best Series of the Year. Nadia, you saw the list: The Diplomat, Gilded Age, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, Paradise, The Pit, Pluribus, Show Horses, Your Friends and Neighbor. By the way, I don't think Pluribus should even be on the list. I know that's not a popular thing to say. I think it's good. I thought it was a little bit underwhelming. But anyway, Nadia, what is your pick for Best Series of the Year out of this list?
So I have to admit that I'm slacking. I did not watch all of these series. I need to get back on my television game ASAP.
I know you're mostly a movie girl.
Yeah, I mean, I love television, but I'm pretty behind right now. There's just so much to catch up on between animation as well. But from what I've heard, The Pit is definitely like a top pick. And I loved The Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I had the pleasure of covering it at New York Comic Con last year and interviewing them. And what kind of sold me on that is how different it is from anything else we've seen from Game of Thrones. So even though it does have source material, I do like that they took a chance and went with something completely different, because it is a little more comedic than what we're used to. And it is like the lower class system. And it's not the typical like political intrigue we're used to. So I don't know. I loved it. So I can't say like I didn't watch everything on this list, but I did love A Night of Seven Kingdoms.
Rob, you it's a great list. It's an impressive list. What to you stands out as the best drama series of the year?
Well, this is a murderer's row of great television shows, and I've watched a majority of them, and which is surprising to me considering I'm more of a movie guy too. But there are shows. Here's the thing, like we talked about the idea of all of these things. The Pit is a show, being that it's set, in a hospital, and it is done in that whole 24 real-time style. To me, and this isn't fair to say, but medical shows have been a staple of television forever. And while it certainly had ER to build off of.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that, like, look, me, Mr. Verisimilitude, creating a reality that this show creates, because like you said, it's completely absorbing. And that is not an easy thing to do. But it's still a medical show. And we've got I think Slow Horses has gotten better and better and better and better after every season. It is top tier A+ television. Now, Paradise, that I dearly love, I will admit, I think it's an airport read. That's why I love it. I love it for exactly, it is not some highfalutin thing. It's totally entertainment. It's turned into a sci-fi show that I love. And so, I mean, The Pit is probably, overall, the most entertaining, and probably in terms of how it's crafted. But I gotta say, these other shows, to make a show like Slow Horses and just go on this trajectory, is an enormous creative accomplishment. Same with The Diplomat. Same with...
Oh God, I
Night
love
of
The Diplomat.
I love The Diplomat. I love Kerry Russell so great. I love Your Friends and Neighbors is another show that's just getting better, and John Hamm kills it in that.
By the way, did you know this is a great year for their family, because Kerry Russell in real life is married to the star of Widow's Bay, who himself got nominated for Best Actor in a comedy series. So it's going to be a really good night for that family. That's going to be a really good night for them.
Yeah, and Widow's Bay was also great.
So good.
So there's so many great shows. So, I mean, The Pit will probably take it home again, but I would love to see any one of these shows win. I think Slow Horses has a chance, actually, to emerge victorious. The Gilded Age I've watched some of, not a lot of. I've always enjoyed it, but it always kind of seemed a little... There's something about it, even though it's beautifully made and I love Carrie Coon, there's something a little low rent about it. I just feel it's a little... But these are all... That's not fair. But they're all great shows. It's hard
All
to
right,
say.
guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, I can't speak to Gilded Age, but I mean, like, it's all really great show lineup. I think it's easily got to be The Pit, but there could be a lot of others in there. The Diplomat could win. Night of the Seven Kingdoms could win. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Now, obviously, the number one story in all of like entertainment over the past, couple of like almost a year now has been the impending and upcoming purchase of Paramount of Warner Brothers. And it's been going through a lot of different stages. There's been a lot of drama, and Netflix was involved and all that kind of stuff. Well, you guys remember that a little while ago, we announced that a coalition of a number of states' attorney generals, starting with California and New York, and now a whole bunch of others, said that they were looking at getting together and launching a lawsuit to stop the merger, which they can do as state attorney generals. Well, now reports coming out of Reuters are saying that the U.S. states could sue next week. It sounds like they're close enough now that they're saying they may launch this lawsuit next week. Now, this comes on the heels of the Oregon Attorney General, who says they are seeking a separate legal action to put in an injunction to stop the merger from going through temporarily, because they're investigating corruption in the Department of Justice approving the merger. Because as they say, as it goes on in the story, it talks about the Attorney General for Oregon says, listen, when the Attorney General does a pure investigation based on the facts and the law, we have no problem with that. But they are they're putting out subpoenas for all the communication that happened between all the Paramount people and the government. Because what Oregon is saying is that the Department of Justice didn't greenlight the purchase of Warner Brothers by Paramount based on a proper investigation. They based it on favors being done between the government, particularly the White House, and the head players involved. A little bit of tit for tat, if you will, which is illegal. So they're doing that on top of the fact that the states are now getting together, and it sounds like it looks like next week they're going to launch this lawsuit. Now, why this becomes really important is because October is an incredibly important date. If this merger is not completed by October, then Paramount has to pay a penalty to the shareholders of Warner Brothers to the tune of $650 million. Just if the deal's not closed yet. So if the deal's not closed by then, Paramount's got to pay an additional over $500 million, in which they're already going to be over $80 billion in debt as a result of this. And then another $650 million penalty gets tagged onto that every 3 months. If 3 more months pass and they don't get it closed, another $650 million, and so on and so forth. The way I think this is going to shake out, guys, I think the way this is going to shake down is that I do think the deal's going to go through, and I think they're going to launch the lawsuit. And here's what I think is going to happen. We see in the UK and in Europe right now that that Paramount is giving up some of the assets they are going to acquire from Warner Brothers in order to appease the European governments. Like, okay, we were supposed to get this, and this, but we'll give those up. And that's supposed to appease the European governments. Whether it does or doesn't, we'll find out. It'll probably work. What I think is going to happen here, and this is just a guess, but I think the states are going to launch this lawsuit, and then I think Paramount is going to go to them and say, okay, what do we need to do to make you feel satisfied in order for us to complete this merger? And I think that's going to include them giving up CNN, because I think that's going to be one of the big things that the attorney generals are going to be worried about, is the monopolization of the news media. So I think it's going to be Paramount will be being able to offer up CNN and say, okay, we'll divest ourselves of CNN, and maybe even HBO Max.
Wow.
Maybe even HBO Max. So they buy Warner Brothers and then immediately sell off HBO Max and CNN. And then I think the merger goes through okay. Or maybe both those things, maybe one of those things, maybe something else. But that's what I ultimately see happening here, is that the lawsuit will get launched. They're going to see that they're under threat of losing that $650 million. And then they will go to the government, to the attorney generals, and make an offer. And I think if it's good enough, the attorney generals will go, okay, that satisfies us, and then they'll end it, and then they can go through and complete the merger. That's how I see it playing out at any rate. I could be wrong. Rob, this is something we've been covering now for a long time. They're saying this lawsuit is the one everybody's been waiting for, is this particular lawsuit. It looks like it's going to get launched next week. How do you see this shaking out? What do you think the result of this is going to be?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, this is a very pricey, there's a lot of money at stake here all the way around. So, I mean, you know, if states are getting involved there, and it's just going to be more and more expensive. And like you, John, I think ultimately it probably will go through, but I don't envy the fight that Paramount is going and Skydance is going to have to put up to make this merger happen. And you know, there's a lot of there's not a lot of sentiment, public sentiment or industry sentiment that wants to see this merger happen. You know, there's a lot of people that would, I think both you and I ultimately, if we had our druthers, we wouldn't want it to happen. We just kind of think it's an inevitability that it will.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a lot of people that don't want it to happen, and I think for good reason. you know, for the industry, I don't necessarily think it's a good thing. And I also don't think that Paramount is on, if these guys were making gold all year and they were on a great footing, I would say, oh, okay, maybe this could work out. But they're not. This is a merger that is barely going to get off the ground at best. And who knows how long it's going to take. I mean, they're like, we're going to make 15 movies at Warner Brothers and 15 movies at Paramount. Well, really? Are you? You already have a massive debt load that you're incurring. What are you going to do to pay for those movies? Are you going to make $200 million tentpole properties? How many of those can you muster? So I think they're in a precarious position. So I don't think it's going to be easy. If it goes through and they make it happen, it's going to be a fight and it's going to get ugly.
Nadia, I'm sure you've been following this story too. Like, what do you think is going to happen here? Do you think the merger goes through? Do you think it gets blocked? Do you think they'll make some concessions? I don't know. What do you see happening?
I think we're just in a really scary place right now on so many levels, but especially in terms of media, film, with strikes, with AI, with literally everything happening right now. And then them kind of monopolizing this is getting kind of scary, because what made movies so great was having so many different studios and so many different point of views. And now when everything gets like streamlined and just into like a couple, it kind of like makes less chances for more opportunity. And it's scary because we were talking about the lesser of two evils before, when Netflix was also throwing their hand in this. So it's kind of sad that like we didn't really want Netflix, but that was like the better choice. And the irony of WB having such a great year, like Sinners and Weapons, and like they had so many incredible movies, and it's kind of sad to see that like even if they had a good year, that they have to settle for something like this. And we're only going to deal with like more trouble with like job losses and monopolies, conflicts of interest, no competition. I even read that like theater owners are going to struggle because now they're going to have to deal with like 30 movies a year. So it's kind of like so many factors go into this, and so many jobs and industries are going to be affected by it. And then on the other side, you have like the whole political connection, which is frightening, because now they're going to own, if they keep CNN, or if they keep HBO Max and have their hands tied to every single thing, it's just, it's scary. We're really hitting like monopoly days, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I had Sean Chandler on the show yesterday, which is great having Sean here. And one of the things I said to Sean was, the reason I again, all the things being equal, I just want Warner Brothers to be Warner Brothers. That's it. But the reason I kind of preferred the Netflix deal over the Paramount deal is because with Paramount, you have two big theatrical studios, and now you're just going to have one. If Netflix bought Warner Brothers, you are bringing a new player into the theatrical business, because Netflix is not in the theatrical business, and it would be bringing them in. So again, I would prefer Warner Brothers just staying Warner Brothers, but yeah, lesser of two evils kind of thing. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think is going to happen here? It looks like, according to these reports, that the attorney generals of the various states are going to launch their lawsuit next week. Do you think it actually goes all the way through? Do you think that, Paramount will come in and make some concessions that'll satisfy the attorney generals? I don't know. Whatever way you see this working out, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. This one is admittedly not a big story, but it's one I love. A couple of shows over the last couple of years that don't get a lot of talk, but I absolutely thought were fantastic. One was Mare of Easttown. That show was incredible. Won a bunch of Emmys and all that kind of stuff as well. It's amazing. If you haven't seen Mare of Easttown, you need to watch Mare of Easttown. The other one was a show from last year that kind of flew under the radar, and I only picked up on it once episode 3 came out. So I started watching at that point, and that's Task. Oh my God, Task is so good. Like right down until the final episode. Mark Ruffalo's great in it. It's just fantastic. Well, for those of you who watch both shows, you kind of knew that, they're both from the same showrunner, and they both kind of happen in the outskirts of Philadelphia, and they both kind of happen, right? Well, it turns out it's a shared cinematic universe. And it just got announced that Task Season 2 has added the Mare of Easttown star Julianne Nicholson, who's also in Paradise. She's Sinatra in Paradise. She's great. She's going to be joining the cast of Task as her character in Mare of Easttown. And guys, what this reminds me of, when I was a little kid, I remember, I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I remember there being like this crossover episode of, I think it was the A-Team and Smith and Smith. Remember that show, Smith and Smith? And like, it's like, wait a minute. And like they did this crossover, and it's like, wait, what? These two shows live in the same universe? And of course, we've got the Chicago shows that are on. You got Chicago Med, Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, all that kind of stuff. That's obvious. But this was this brought a smile to my face today, because I love both of these shows, and to see that they're crossing the streams of them, I think is just fantastic. Again, the stories in them are great. The tone of the two shows fit magnificently. The casts are fantastic. So I love this. Anyway, Rob, you heard about this crossover. What do you think? Because you've watched both of these shows. What do you think about it?
I think it's totally rad, and I love her as an actress. I mean, why not? And I loved Mare of Easttown as well. Loved that first season. I thought that Kate Winslet delivered a stellar performance. And Sinatra's become one of my favorite characters on TV. Rest in peace, by the way. Or did she? We'll find out if quantum computing is involved. But I think this is cool, and I love when TV shows cross over. You know, I always think that's a fun thing to do. So I'm in.
By the way, I got somebody in live chat saying there was a time that Magnum PI crossed over with Murder, She Wrote. I mean, it was later, so I think it was reruns, because I was too young, but I think, that one show with the House of Girls, Facts of Life. Is it Facts of Life? Wasn't Facts of Life a spinoff of, what the rich white guy adopts two young black sons?
Different Strokes.
Different Strokes. I think Facts of Life was a spin-off of Different Strokes, because I think the maid in Different Strokes,
it is,
then became the lead. That's what it was.
Yeah, Mrs. Garrett.
That was her name, Mrs. Garrett. Can Nadia or Rob, can either of you think of any other examples of when they did like television show crossovers? I'm having a hard time thinking of any others.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, they did. X-Files had like there's an episode, I think, of The Lone Gunman, where Detective Munch from Homicide interviews them in character, and then of course they did the X-Cops thing, and then they were going to do a big crossover with there was some I don't know if it was Northern Exposure. It didn't actually happen. But then of course, you have Frasier spinning out of Cheers, and
oh yeah, that's a great example. Frasier spinning out of Cheers. Marcus Wine live chat saying Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, and Mork and Mindy. I totally forgot about Mork and Mindy being one of those.
And of course, I mean, Picard appears on the first episode of Deep Space Nine.
Well, that's like saying, oh, Ahsoka was in it. Yeah, no, that's fine. What was that one you said, Sister? Which one was that? I don't remember that one.
Tia and Tamara. And their brother Taj Mari was Smart Guy.
I remember the one you're talking about now. I didn't watch it, but I remember that one. All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I know not everybody watched Mare of Easttown, and that's a shame. You should. It was great.
Incredible.
And Task was so good too. And now they're crossing them over. I think this is awesome. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this for a second here, shall we? Well, the Odyssey is coming out. And, there is a very concerted... Now, I don't know if I'm going to like the movie. I mean, I probably will, but I didn't like Tenet. I loved Oppenheimer, obviously. And I think the Odyssey looks really good, but maybe I'll like it, maybe I won't. I mean, I've had a couple of films this year that I've been very excited about and really thought would be good. I'm looking at you, Supergirl, and didn't end up being all that great. So maybe that'll happen with the Odyssey. I don't know. But I haven't decided it's great, and I haven't decided it's terrible. But there's a lot of people out there who believe the Odyssey is going to be terrible. It's awful. And for a lot of different reasons, I made an editorial about it. Well, you guys, this one is just pathetic. This one is just really pathetic. Some of you guys may have seen a headline going around claiming that the Odyssey's last trailer, which has like 60 or 70,000 likes, has 600,000 dislikes. Did you see that?
Yeah.
You guys seen that report going around?
Yep.
600,000 dislikes, they say. And then sure enough, a whole bunch of other outlets running into, oh, Odyssey, 600,000 dislikes. And you know, at first, when I saw that, I thought about it and I'm like, well, I mean, we do know there's been a very concentrated, concerted, organized hate campaign against the movie. And wouldn't be surprising to me that they organized 600,000 worth of people to just go and bomb it by clicking dislike. But then I thought to myself, I said, self, how? How do they supposedly have this dislike information for the Odyssey trailer? Because, I mean, obviously YouTube made the controversial decision a few years ago to no longer show the dislike number, right? Well, as it turns out, it comes from a Chrome extension called Return YouTube Dislikes. It's the name of a Chrome extension. And if you have that Chrome extension connected and that Chrome extension turned on, it will show you, at least this is what they say, it'll show you the number of dislikes that a video on YouTube has. So I thought, all right, that's interesting. I'll go connect this myself. So I went in and I turned on the Chrome extension, and then I went over and decided to take a look. And sure enough, the number was there. And I thought, I'm going to look at one of my own videos. Now, follow me here. I recently did an editorial called Let's Talk About the Anger Around Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. Now, this is a video I made knowing it was going to get a lot of dislikes. All right? Whenever you make a video like that, you hope to get a lot of likes, but you're also probably going to get a lot of dislikes. So I was expecting a lot of dislikes on that video. And so with that Chrome extension connected, I went and I took a look, and here's the video. And you see down here, you see that down here, the dislike thing? It says that while this video has 4,400 likes, it has 3,500 dislikes. That's a lot of dislikes, right? That's the Return YouTube Dislike extension showing the number of dislikes, right? I'm like, wow. I mean, yeah, I was expecting a lot of dislikes. But then I thought, is that number actually accurate? So what I did was I went into my YouTube actual analytics, like the actual data, and it showed this. Here it is for the Let's Talk About the Anger, right? And you see down here where it says likes versus dislikes, YouTube's analytics tell me that 72.3% of the people who voted liked it. Wait, 72%, but the extension said it was made way more than that. When I go in to see more, it gives me this. That video got 4,472 likes, but only 1,745 likes. Here, it says it got 3,500 dislikes. Here, in the actual YouTube analytics, it says only 1,745 likes. This thing was literally giving me the double amount of dislikes than what it actually got. And I thought to myself, wait a minute. That doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem right at all. So what's going on? Well, did a little bit of research. Here's the thing. Now remember, this information I'm about to give you here, this is all directly from the Return YouTube Dislike documentation and FAQ. Okay? All the data I'm about to give you right now, all this information I'm about to give you right now is not something anybody's making up. This is directly from the Return YouTube Dislike extensions documentation and FAQ. Okay? So here's the paraphrasing of it as I put this in here. YouTube, I didn't catch my Y. YouTube removed public dislikes data from the API, and Return YouTube Dislike uses a combination of archived data, exported extension user data, and estimates based on view-like ratios for YouTube for videos uploaded after public dislikes were removed. And basically it's this. This is the main thing you have to take away from this. RYD, this extension that's made everybody run around with these numbers saying, the Odyssey trailer got 600,000 dislikes, everybody. Their own documentation shows and explicitly says, does not have access to YouTube's data. Their own documentation says that they don't have access to YouTube's data. So where the hell are they getting this thing that this video of mine has 3,500 dislikes when in reality it only has 1,700? Like, where's it getting this information if their own documentation says that they do not have access to YouTube's data? Well, here's what it is. Okay, are you ready for this? And this is where it gets in. Follow me here, because I know a lot of people don't like trying to keep up with data, but follow this here with me, okay? Where do they come up with that number of dislikes? If they don't actually have access to YouTube's actual data to tell you how many dislikes something has, where do they come up with these numbers? This formula is directly from their own site. Return YouTube Dislikes equates this. Dislikes equals dislikes from the extension's users divided by likes from the extension's users multiplied by YouTube's publicly visible likes. So people, and only people who use Return YouTube Dislikes, only people who use that extension, it measures how many of those people disliked a video divided by the amount of those people who liked the video, and then multiply that by the number of people who liked the video. So here's how, let's break this down into simpler stuff, okay? So, and by the way, Return YouTube Dislikes equals 0.2% of YouTube users. I said TY, it should be YT. Sorry about that. Okay. The number of people who use this extension only represent 1/5 of 1%. Okay. It's still a big number. 1/5 of 1% of the total amount of people who use YouTube is still a big number. Make no mistake. But so out of those 0.2% of people, here's how that data would work. Let's say 550 people, like RYD users, voted. Okay. Now I'm just using this as an example. Okay. Let's say 500 of them disliked it and 50 liked it. All right. So how does RYD then calculate what it thinks the dislikes on a particular video are? In this case, the Odyssey trailer? Well, here's their math going back to this formula. Their formula is 500, all right, divided by 50. So the number of people who disliked it, who used the extension, divided by the number of people who liked it, times, and let's just say, I think right about now, there's 60,000 likes on the Odyssey trailer. So their formula is 500 divided by 50. So 500 divided by 50 is 10. So it's 10 times 60,000, and that equals 600,000 dislikes. The extension says, 550 of our users voted on that particular video. So let's do our formula. Only 550 people. And I will put it to you to make your own conclusion. But what kinds of people are installing extensions that get them to glorify and look at dislikes? I'm not going to answer that for you. I'll leave it up for you to come up with your own answer to that. But
Well, when it comes to modern Star Trek,
when it comes to Star Trek,
I do.
So here we are. We're at 600,000 dislikes. There it is. There it is. So when you see these headlines going around saying that the Odyssey's trailer got 600,000 dislikes, no, it fucking didn't. No, it didn't. The extension they're using does not have access to YouTube's data. They simply take their own users, see how many of them disliked a video, and then randomly decide to multiply that number by the number of publicly available likes it gets, and voila! They come up with their made-up magical number. Now, look, let me be clear here. I'm not sitting here trying to disparage the extension itself. Like, remove or return YouTube dislikes can be a useful, interesting tool to give us some interesting insights. Like, I'm not trying to disparage the tool, not at all. I think it's a very creative thing. Again, not even though it will tell people who look at this video that it has 3,500 dislikes, when in reality it has less than half of that. But regardless, I think it's an interesting tool. But I think it is, to be kind, it is radically irresponsible for these people running these headlines to say, this thing got 600,000. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. What it got was an extension that has 0.2% of YouTube users who may or may not have a particular persuasion, and it's counting only those people votes and then multiplying that result by the number of public likes. It's ridiculous. It's 100% clickbait rate. Now, I don't blame some people who just see all the headlines and going, oh my God, it got 600,000 dislikes and all these other outlets are saying it, therefore it must be true. I don't blame a lot of those people. You see it running. What I do blame is if a moron like me can do 5 minutes of reading and see what this actually is. Again, I cannot emphasize this point enough. This point is the most important point in all this. The extension does not have access to YouTube's data. When you see that 600,000 dislike number, that is not coming from YouTube. That is coming from the extension making up its own numbers based on its own users and then multiplying it by, again, this is from their own site. This is the formula. It's from their own documentation. They don't try to pretend it. They don't pretend they're getting YouTube's data. They don't pretend they're getting YouTube's data. It is just absolutely pathetic the extent that some people will go to do to try to create a negative narrative. Now, again, I might end up hating the Odyssey. I don't think I will, but I didn't think I'd dislike Supergirl either, and we all saw how that turned out. So I don't know if I'm going to like the Odyssey or dislike it. But again, to me, it's just beyond pathetic and sad to see this sort of thing going around. And again, I think completely irresponsible. Anyway, Rob, you saw those numbers. You saw those headlines. People running around, 600,000 dislikes. No, it's not. And anyway, what's your takeaway from this?
Well, this whole controversy drives me a little bonkers in the first place. Let me ask you a question, John. Was King Arthur real? Was he a real guy? Did Camelot really exist?
You know what? I've always just kind of thought he was, but I'm not sure that he was. I don't know.
No. He was not.
Like, obviously, I thought a lot of the stories were mythological, but I didn't know that. No, I didn't think
he
about
wasn't.
that.
And Odysseus and all these characters were probably not real either. It's a good bet that they weren't. And the Odyssey has gods and monsters, Cyclops, even Ithaca in the story probably isn't where Ithaca is. And you know what? Christopher Nolan wasn't even the first person to cast a black woman as Helen of Troy. I told you this past weekend, I went and saw, of course, The Great Citizen Kane. Well, in 1950, Orson Welles cast Eartha Kitt as Helen of Troy in his film his stage play in Paris that was an adaptation of Dr. Faustus. And you know why he cast Eartha Kitt? Because he thought she was the most exciting woman in the world. That's what he said. So it's like, if you look at what Christopher Nolan is doing, he's doing the Excalibur version of the Odyssey. What John Boorman did with Excalibur, which he took all of these myths and put them together in his version of the Grail quest. None of that armor is period accurate. He cast people that probably didn't look like the people that were there at the time. But I can tell you, Nicole Williamson as Merlin, the wizard, was not a real dude. And what Christopher Nolan has done is exactly what John Boorman did with Excalibur. By the way, Excalibur is badass. And, you look at the Odyssey, and so he's got stylized armor in the Odyssey that is not period accurate. Just like John Boorman had stylized armor because it looks cool on camera. Do you think people were going, actually, some people were going, that armor's not period accurate. So I find this whole crazy, controversy. The fact is, I've always thought Lupita Nyong'o does have a face that could launch 1,000 ships.
I have always thought
it's
that.
Striking.
I would go to war with nations for Lupita Nyong'o.
There are very
few. Me.
Her face, she's got I don't know if she's from Nigeria or where she's from in Africa, but she's got that regional face that is stunning. Absolutely stunning. And she's a great actress. So to me, it's very possible. I mean, I swear to God, I think people think that Helen of Troy can only look like Diane Kruger from the movie Troy. And I really think that's what people have in their heads. Like, she's got to look like they race swapped her. Well, Helen of Troy probably didn't look like Diane Kruger looked either. Yeah. So it's like, I bet she didn't have as straight of teeth as Diane Kruger did. But it's just, we're getting a badass, stylized, the first time in history a movie's all been shot in IMAX. As a movie lover, my entire life, we get the man who has devoted himself to what? The audience experience. He never wants to shatter verisimilitude. He made me care about Dunkirk in a way that I never thought I would. He made me care about Oppenheimer. And now he's rolling along and giving us one of the great mythological stories that isn't real. And he's giving us what John Boorman gave us with Excalibur. This badass, let's use Wagner, let's use awesome music that didn't even exist back then. I mean, you know what? Christopher Nolan said there weren't symphonies. So Ludwig Göransson, you can't give me a symphonic score because those instruments didn't exist. Everything's a trade-off. We're getting a badass movie that I can't wait to see. And
Anyway,
people want to ratio a trailer on YouTube. Why would you want to do that? People are coming at me trying to give me these explanations about there's not really Cyclops. Men get turned into pigs in this movie. Come on, man.
Nadia, you saw all these things. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I was gonna bring up Eartha Kitt too, because when I first read about that, I was like, oh my God, like I love her. She was Catwoman too.
I know.
always forget that. But it was interesting that you brought up like Camelot, because I love all that stuff. My grandma introduced me to like Merlin when I was a kid, and I fell in love with fantasy and like mythology. But it's interesting because what I appreciate is this taking a different stance, because people forget like Guy Ritchie did King Arthur. Kingsman, the comic book, is also a take on Camelot. It's like a take on like Lancelot and the different like characters. So it's interesting when you have media taking this mythology and this history or whatever they want to call it, and make new stories with it, because it doesn't have to be rooted in real history. So it's exciting when we get a different take. Like I said, like Campea knows too, like I'm a huge Guy Ritchie fan, so seeing him do King Arthur was badass. So you can have different iterations and takes on this, because if we keep getting the same thing, it's not going to be interesting. And I love Troy, but I'm super excited to see this take.
By the way, I hate to break this to a lot of Quentin Tarantino fans, but did you know that Adolf Hitler did not actually die in a movie theater fire? Hate to break it to you. Adolf Hitler, there are actually some people out there who think that's history. Did not die in a movie theater fire. Just throwing that out there. Anyway, guys.
What about all the clones of him from the boys from Brazil? That's not real either.
Question is for you guys. What do you think about this whole thing? Look, again, I'm not sitting here telling you or giving any guarantees that Odyssey is going to be good. It might be a bag of crap. It might be my next Tenet. I don't know. But this pathetic bullshit that people made up nonsense running around, the Odyssey has 6,000, 100,000. No, it doesn't. No, all you have to do is just look into it for a pure second. Anyway, whatever you guys think about it, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, all eyes right now are understandably on Marvel, because we got probably what are going to be the two biggest films of the year. Let me just there we go. The two biggest films of the year. We got Spider-Man, Brand New Day is on its way. And, you know, we were just looking at some numbers here, guys, that said that they're lowball now. The major trades are saying the lowball opening weekend is going to be $180 to $190 million. So probably over 200, which is crazy.
What a failure.
What an absolute abject failure this is going to be. So that, and then of course we got Avengers Doomsday, and then we got Avengers Secret Wars. But what's coming after Secret Wars? What do they got? Well, this is one that we're going to have to put under the category of the rumor mill, because this is not something, what we're about to talk about here, let me be flush off the top, is not something that has been officially confirmed by Marvel, by Kevin Feige, by anybody involved. But there are reports, you've probably seen them whispering around online here the last 24 hours or so, that Marvel has targeted 7 priorities, 7 movies that are going to be priorities for them immediately following Avengers Secret Wars. So, again, file this one into rumor mill, but it is one that's being whispered about a lot. So let's, for the sake of fun movie fan discussion, just for the sake of movie fan discussion, let's talk about these picks, what we agree with, what we don't think is going to be there, some things that we think are missing. So let's take a look at it. So right now, there's 7 films we're talking about. One is obviously a next Avengers movie, that they're already planning and thinking about their next Avengers movie. The other one, is Spider-Man 5. They're saying there's going to be another Spider-Man. Then the one I've been waiting for, for years now, is Shang-Chi 2, is one of their other big priorities. Shang-Chi 2! That's a totally different movie. Shang-Chi 2 is the porn version that you will find over on Pornhub, I'm sure, of that. So Shang-Chi 2 is going to be one of them in there as well. Obviously, we know the X-Men is going to be one of them. The next one up that they're saying is a Thunderbolts sequel. Now, this one makes a lot of sense to me, guys, because we the way they've set them up and who they are and what they are and the role they're going to be playing going into the Avengers, particularly Secret Wars, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not surprised at all, and I'm glad because I loved Thunderbolts. I absolutely love that movie. So let's go back over here. So there's those. Then another one they're saying is Blade. Sure. But they're saying Blade. And then this is the one that gets some people attention. Midnight Suns. So those are the 7 films that they're saying is going to be what's going to be their priority moving forward. Anyway, Rob, you had a chance to take a look at that list. For people who are thinking that the Marvel Cinematic Universe just reboots after Secret Wars, this kind of flies in the face of that, right? Like, if this is true, which we are not representing that it is true, this is just what's being said around, and we're just discussing it for fun. But all of this, like, other than Midnight Suns, the next Avengers, Spider-Man 5, Shang-Chi 2, Thunderbolts 2, I mean, we've been expecting an X-Men. This kind of flies in the face of the full reboot idea that some people had. But it's also leaning back on some things that are pretty reliable. Rob, you look at this list. Do you think this is the next 7 films we're getting? Which ones do you question? Do you think there's one or two that's being left out? Because I'll tell you one that's kind of ominous by its absence is the lack of another Doctor Strange movie in there. Especially
or a Fantastic Four movie.
Or another Fantastic Four movie. So you see this list. What do you think about it?
Well, it's interesting because obviously the multiverse must end. We know from the Secret Wars comic that they're adapting that Doom creates Battle World. And whatever comes out of Battle World is going to be a new universe. I would suspect that whatever they're going to do is similar to what happened in Crisis on Infinite Earths, the comic. When the DC universe was given one Earth, you had people, their backgrounds were changed, but they were the same people. And then there's going to be like the 616 never had the X-Men. You had people that were suffering from mutations like Miss Marvel, but there was no, we haven't seen the X-Men. So the X-Men could be a direct result of what happens at the end of Secret Wars. So I would imagine we're going to get a hybridization of both old and new. And I've also heard that what they also want to do is take our old school characters like Steve Rogers, because old man Steve had to come back and give the shield back to Anthony Mackie at some point after the events of Doomsday and Secret Wars. But I would imagine that the old team like Thor, Captain America, they'll probably, and who are we kidding? You think they're not going to bring Tony Stark back? They're going to bring Tony Stark back. And they'll be like the Illuminati in the new universe.
By the way, sorry to interrupt, but I forgot there was another one that I totally forgot was a part of the report, which is obvious because we know they're making it. They have confirmed this, is Black Panther 3. So I forgot to include that one. So I threw it in there on the list now, guys. So sorry. I caught that because some of you mentioned in there about that. So sorry, Rob. Go. I just wanted to correct myself. I was just going to
say, I think it's all exciting. All this makes perfect sense to me because why you're not going to get rid of Tom Holland's Spider-Man when he's your top grosser for you. And obviously in the comic book world, they can do anything. So this doesn't surprise me at all.
What about you, Nadia? You see this list. So again, obviously another Avengers. Obviously at some point we're getting that. Spider-Man 5, Shang-Chi 2, X-Men, Thunderbolts 2, Blade, Midnight Suns, Black Panther. I mentioned that one that's kind of missing for me is a Doctor Strange. The other one that there has been talk about is another Thor. Like Chris Hemsworth has kind of implied that they are going to do another Thor, but it's not been mentioned in these reports. Anyway, what do you think about the list? And is there any others that you think might be missing from there?
And they fundamentally changed the Kree and the Skrulls. There were so many things that have to be like retracted or fixed or changed. So maybe Secret Wars would fix that. In terms of those specific ones, what I'm excited for, if we were to get Midnight Suns, they could bring back Doctor Strange. We could finally get our
That's
recast
true.
of Ghost Rider. Maybe they'll bring in Morbius. We could get Man Thing. We could get Doctor Voodoo, which a lot of people are waiting for, and Blade. If we do get Blade, maybe they'll do Midnight Suns after, but who knows? Because Blade has been in talk for like half a decade already, I feel like, or longer. So I don't know. I really want to see Blade still, but I think Midnight Suns is something they could do to tap into all these different pieces that are kind of missing. In terms of Spider-Man 5, obviously, I think Spider-Man's always one of the biggest sells. I think no matter what, people are going to do Spider-Man. Thunderbolts, I would love to see a sequel, and as well as Shang-Chi 2. Same, I've been waiting forever for that, and I think he truly deserves it. And Thor, we do not need another one at all. If we do, please go back to something serious. I am tired of it being too jokey, and it's not even funny anymore. It's just knocking yourself on the head. And then Black Panther, I would love to see Damson Idris. He's been like rumored, a cast rumor, and he's phenomenal. If you've never seen Snowfall, it's one of the best shows ever, and that should have won nominations. But if we do get another Black Panther, I would absolutely love him to play that role, and I think it would be an honor to bring him back. And I think that's something that we would like to see.
You know, there is one on this list because I can see all this happening. Like, well, I have my doubts that Blade is ever going to happen, but there's that. But obviously another Avengers, obviously Spider-Man, obviously Shang-Chi 2, obviously X-Men, Thunderbolts 2, awesome. I don't think they're going to do Midnight Suns. I just don't. I don't see how they. Well, yeah, on a couple levels. Like, number one, I don't see how they can believe that would be box office success. Because who's your main guy in that? Like, Moon Knight? I mean,
Yeah,
it would
Rider.
be interesting if they decided to bring in Morbius, which I don't think Sony would have any problem at this point letting Marvel try to redeem Morbius. But I just don't see them doing it.
They should make it a Disney Plus series, because I think if they make it television, that's something that could also work, because remember the short series for the Werewolf by Night was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think maybe instead, maybe make it a sequel. Somehow tie it in, maybe even like they did with the Punisher, like a one shot. That could possibly be a way to introduce some of these characters, like maybe, like I said, like Ghost Rider. We want a new Ghost Rider, maybe have him appear in a one shot for Midnight Suns. I think that's a way that it could work instead of a full movie.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? You saw the reports going around talking about what the priority movies are for Marvel coming out of Secret Wars. Now, we can't attest to their validity. They may or may not be true, but the reports are going around. We just thought it would be fun to talk about, as long as you have that caveat. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down into the comments section below, then let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. I'm gonna talk about the thing I mentioned yesterday about some of the potential problems that Doomsday's having. But before I do that, I'm gonna bid good afternoon to, of course, Robert Meyer Burnett. Thanks for being here again today, my friend. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yes, you will.
And of course, Nadia Martinez, aka Gotham Geek Girl. Thanks a lot for being here, Nadia. Hope to have you again on soon.
Thank you. So much fun.
All right, we'll talk to you guys later. All right. Now, with that all said, let me get to the thing I mentioned on the show. So yesterday, I kind of mentioned later in the show, kind of as an off the cuff, that I had heard something that was not so great about Avengers Doomsday. But I decided not to talk about it yet because I'd only heard it from one person, right? And you know me, I'm not a scooper. I'm not a scooper. Sometimes if I hear things from multiple people, I'll share it with you guys, but I had only heard something from one person, so I decided not to talk about it yesterday. Now, for context, you guys know that I am very pro Avengers Doomsday. I have been like soiling my pants over the idea ever since, we started hearing some things about it almost a year ago, and like I've just been so excited for it. I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be awesome. And I can't wait. Now, understanding that's the background here and my context, that I'm very, very pro this movie and been very excited. And I've been hyping it up like crazy. And again, I'm not segmenting this out because I don't want to get clicks for it. I'm not going to make a headline out of it, not going to make an individual about it. I didn't even put it in the show notes. All right. But I've had a lot of you people saying, come on, talk about this thing. So here's the context. And some of you may find this to be, and I kind of find it to be, maybe a big nothing burger, but here's the context. I was talking to somebody not yesterday, but the night before, late the night before, who is kind of connected to the situation. And what they told me, to summarize, was that when it comes to Avengers Doomsday, they're having some issues. There are some problems that this is the phrase they use, they're not finding it in the edit. Now, I think I've never heard that phrase before, not finding it in the edit, but I think I know what that means, but I wasn't really sure what it means. So I had to get some clarification. Like I talked to Rob about it. He totally knew what it was. Like apparently this is a common phrase. I've not heard it before, but what they meant by that was that when you're shooting the movie and you're on set, everything can feel great, but you don't really know what you got until you get it into the editing room and you start actually putting the movie together. And sometimes, and I'm not necessarily talking about Doomsday right now, I'm just saying that sometimes you get into the edit room and you go, oh no, this isn't working. Like in our heads, it totally worked, but now that we're putting it together in the edit, it's not working. Or we're not finding its flow, or it's feeling disjointed, or it's not making sense. We're starting to see some logic problems, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, what I got told yesterday, again, by somebody connected to the situation, was that they were struggling because they weren't finding it in the edit. That apparently, like when they shot the movie, everything felt great, everything looks great. And now that they're in the editing room and putting the movie together, that they're discovering some issues. Now, besides the fact that I don't want to just get accused of just trying to get clicks for why I'm not segmenting this out, I did finally get a hold of somebody else with some knowledge of the situation. And when I presented them with what I got told by the first person, they just simply said in a very, very short text, I'm just going to read it verbatim here. Okay. This is what they wrote back to me. That's not what I heard. And this is somebody who's connected to the situation. So again, I had one person tell me that there are some struggles going on with the movie, that now that they have it in the edit room, they're finding some problems and that it's problematic and blah, 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 blah. But that was only, and then the other person I finally got in touch with yesterday just simply replied to me, that's not what I heard. So one of the other reasons, besides the fact that I don't want to get accused of just trying to get clicks, is the fact that I've got two different stories coming at me. Like when I mentioned it on the show yesterday, I had only heard from one person. I've now heard from another person who's saying that they didn't hear that. So it could very well not be true at all. That's one of the other reasons I'm not making a headline out of this, and why I'm not making its own standalone video out of this, because I don't want to be spreading misinformation or anything like that. But that's what I was referring to yesterday. When I kind of mentioned that, I'm kind of hearing there might be problems with Doomsday, and I didn't talk about it in depth because I had only heard it from one person, and now I'm hearing something different. So it's probably, quite frankly, a big nothing burger. And you know what? It's just funny because somebody said to me, even if it is nothing burger, John, you still could get a hell of a lot of views if you make an individual video about that. Make the headline, "Problems with Avengers Doomsday." You could probably get a lot of clicks. Yes, I could, but I don't want to be irresponsibly responsible for spreading misinformation. So I'm not making a video out of that. Anyway. So for those of you who were with us yesterday, that's what I was referring to. And I wanted to give you the update that I've heard contrary things now. So I'm getting two contrary pieces of information from two different people. So I would say at this point, you should probably just forget it. let's wait to see if anything else comes out. But I think for now it's safer to say, let's just forget it. But anyway, that's that. That's everything that I was talking about when I gave that little quick 5-second thing yesterday. That's all it was. And I thought maybe it would turn into something bigger, but lo and behold, it did not. So if I get any more updates on that, if I hear anything more, if I get told anything else to give more clarification on any of those two things, I will let you know. But as of right now, yeah, I had one person tell me that the film is having problems in the edit, but then I had another person tell me that actually they didn't hear that. So who knows? We'll see. All right. With that all down, guys, we are now going to move over and start taking your live questions. And once again, I forgot to turn off the super chats. So I'm turning off the super chats now. And yes, turning them off. There they are. But now, if you've already got them sent in, we're good, but I've now turned off the super chat. So let's go over and start taking your questions, shall we? We are going to, who are we starting with here? We are starting with, it looks like we're going to start with Gabriel. Are we starting with Gabriel? Let me see. Oh, look at that. I forgot to turn that on. Now I will turn that on. This should be it. There we are. All right, we're starting with Gabriel. Gabriel watch. I just watched 2001 A Space Odyssey. Oh, I guess I can take my headphones off now too. I just watched 2001 A Space Odyssey. I'm 28. Huge letdown. Kind of boring and overly ambiguous. Maybe I'm too simple-minded. I'd love the book series adapted into a show or a trilogy someday. Look, no, it doesn't mean you're slow. There are plenty of people out there who are smart people that don't like The Godfather. There are people out there that don't like Star Wars. There are people out there who don't like Citizen Kane. Films are subjective. They hit us in different ways. Everybody I know loves the original Blade Runner. I don't. It just hit me a different way. I found it nonsensical and kind of boring, but most of my friends absolutely love it. Great. Doesn't mean they're wrong and I'm right or vice versa. It just, you watched it, didn't quite work for you. Me personally, I think 2001 is freaking amazing, but that doesn't mean you're wrong if you didn't like it. It just didn't hit you the same way it hit me. No, nothing wrong with that, man. Nothing wrong with that. But kudos to you for going back and checking out, classic cinema that you hadn't seen before. I think that's great. All right. Next up, Rob Presser writes, my tinfoil hat theory for Brand New Day is Shang-Chi helps out Spidey with the hand. I know I'm probably wrong, but his sister could have told him to step in, etc. Well, I mean, look, I don't think Shang-Chi is going to be in this movie, but there are several very big reasons why you could believe it. Number one, the director of Spider-Man Brand New Day is the director of Shang-Chi. There's that. Number two, Shang-Chi star Simu Liu, good Canadian kid, by the way, has said on multiple occasions, you're going to see Shang-Chi again sooner than you think. Now, it's been a while since he said that, but he did say we're going to see Shang-Chi again sooner than we think. Theoretically speaking, that could mean Spider-Man Brand New Day. So it's the same director. Simu Liu said, you're going to see me sooner again than you think. There are those whispers going around that they are going to try to load up on Shang-Chi too. So yeah, I don't think we're going to see him in Spider-Man Brand New Day, but I don't think you're ridiculous. I don't think it's ridiculous to believe it if you do believe it, because there is some good rationale there. All right. Next up, we've got Johnny Rios, who sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Johnny. Appreciate that, man, very much. And Johnny writes, just want to say I love this show. Oh, thank you, man, very much. And I appreciate the balance of fandom and insightful industry talk. As somebody interested in business and movies, it's a fascinating industry, and you and your team report on it well. Well, that's very kind. I don't know if that's actually how accurate that is, but that is very kind. And listen, when you do the type of stuff that we do here, where, you do take a lot of abuse, because online, when you have an opinion about a movie, sometimes, the vast majority of times, just good film fans will want to debate your opinion of a movie, but some people don't do that. They decide if they don't like your opinion of a movie, they want to attack you. Not your opinion, not what you thought about a movie. They want to attack you personally. And when you're like us and you take a lot of that, like, I don't really give a crap about it. But in the midst of that, it is awfully nice when kind folks like you, Johnny, want to write in just to support us and just to say something nice. So thank you for that, dude. I do appreciate that very much. All right. Next up, the Daily Prophet writes, hey, John, got my tickets for the Odyssey for IMAX. Does regular IMAX take away from the experience or anything compared to the 44 millimeter? It sells out so fast. Well, I mean, as somebody who hasn't seen the Odyssey yet, I am going to see it next Thursday. Yes, 1 week from today. I'm going to go see it in 70 millimeter IMAX, but I haven't seen it yet. So I doubt it loses too much. Like, yes, there's very, very few of the 70 millimeter IMAX screens. And then there's the other IMAX screens, which some people call LIMAX, but it's still a much bigger format and it's still beautiful. Like, what they now call regular IMAX is still a ridiculously beautiful presentation. It's really good. It's not the 70 millimeter, but I doubt I doubt it's going to be that inferior of an experience. I know there are some Puritans out there that'll say, no. If it's not 70 millimeter IMAX, it's garbage. I can respect that, but that's not been my experience. So if I have the choice to see it in 70 millimeter IMAX or regular IMAX, I'm going to the 70 millimeter. But if I couldn't get my tickets to the 70 and I saw it in a regular one, I wouldn't worry about it too much either. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to be that big of a difference, but we'll find out. All right. Thanks for that, Daily Prophet. Next up, Bry Guy writes, over under 39% Batman debuts in Man of Tomorrow. I'm going to go, I don't think it's 0. I'll go under 39% though. Like, if I had to set a line on it, I would probably set it at 20%. So possible. I don't think likely, but possible. I'll say, again, I'll set the line at 20%. All right. Rick 302 writes, it was confirmed yesterday by Denis that they will be showing the first 7 minutes of Dune Part 3 in front of IMAX 70 millimeter screenings of the Odyssey. Okay. If that is true, Rob and I were talking about this before the show started today. If that is true, because I haven't seen it confirmed yet. Maybe it has been confirmed and I just haven't seen it yet. That is a brilliant thing. Because, oh my God, we've seen the first 7 to 8 minutes of Dune 3. And I've always been excited for Dune 3. But that first 7 or 8 minutes of Dune 3 just shot my enthusiasm and excitement for this movie through the roof. It's insane. It is insane. It will leave you shaking in your seat. So if that's true, and they're going to show the first 7 minutes of the movie in front of the Odyssey, do everything you can do in your power to get tickets to that 70 millimeter screening of the Odyssey. If that's where they're showing it, do everything you can do in your power to get to that screening. Because just watching it, that's first 7 minutes is so intense. It's so intense. I cannot wait for you guys to see it. All right. By the way, Diego is saying he did confirm it. So there it is. Do everything you can do in your power to go and see that thing, just to see the first 7 or 8 minutes. All right. Next up. Thanks for that, Rick. Next up, we got Tomas, who writes, have you seen season 4 of Vox Machina yet? No. But anyway, it's really good and Circus is great. Fun fact, all Vox Machina seasons, as well as their Mighty 9 season, are all 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Anne and I love Vox Machina. We love it. Of course, we're Dungeons and Dragons players. We play Sunday nights. As a matter of fact, you'll see it in a video that I'm going to do. Like, I'm going to do a fireside chat later, and I'll put footage of this in my next fireside chat video. But we were just out every once in a while. Ann and I just like to go out to gaming stores, and there's a white dragon in the current Dungeons and Dragons campaign that we're playing with our friends. And we were out at this gaming store. I'm sure none of you care about this, but, and Anne goes, look at that. And I turn and there's this big white dragon model. And sure enough, we bought it and sat it right down in the middle of our gaming table. And we haven't told our friends about it. We're just going to wait for Sunday night for them to come over and when we play D&D and then see this big white dragon in the middle of our table. It's going to be awesome. Anyway, we love Vox Machina. And it wasn't until the other day we were like flipping through, I think it was Amazon, just looking for something cool to watch. And it's like, wait a minute, Vox Machina season 4. We didn't even realize it was coming. So we have not started watching it yet. We haven't started watching it yet, but we are going to. We're going to sit down and probably binge the whole damn thing. So there's that. All right. Thanks for that, man. Next up. Eugene sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Eugene, very much, dude. That's incredibly generous of you, man, and we appreciate it around here. And Eugene writes, one of two. Does this happen to you when you love a franchise / first movie, but it gets worse as it goes? Well, Hangover. But you can't accept that it's bad, so you convince yourself that you don't hate it, or the latter movie doesn't exist. And follows up with another $20 super chat. Thank you, Eugene. Happens to me with sequels that I just can't accept have gone off the rails. Example, Fast and Furious, Matrix, etc. I love the 4 Die Hard movies and absolutely refuse to accept that the 5th movie ever happened, LOL. The only time, I mean, first of all, it happens all the time, right? Like the television show Heroes, for example. I think the best season of television I've ever seen was the first season of Heroes. I think that is my personal favorite single season of television I've ever seen. But it went downhill after that, right? It just did. Like, I'm sure the writer's strike at the time, like not the latest writer's strike, but the one before that, that definitely had something to do with it and all that kind of stuff. But that went down. The Hangover series just kept getting worse. It happens all the time. The only time for me that I tried to convince myself to still love it was the Star Wars prequels. Like, I went to go see Phantom Menace, like opening night, got my tickets way early. Opening night, I drove 2,000 miles so I could go watch it in my favorite movie theater. True story, I did. Me and a couple of friends got in a van, drove 2,000 miles so we could go to my favorite movie theater and watch Star Wars: The Phantom Menace on its opening night. And I came out with, yeah, man, that was really good. Star Wars is back, really good. And then I watched it again. It's like, it was good. It had a couple problems. It's good, though. It was good. It's good. Right? Right? It's good. Then I saw it a third time, and I'm like, maybe it's not that great. And then by the fourth time I saw it, it's like, man, this is crap. This is really bad. So the only time I can remember telling myself, like trying to convince myself of a franchise that I loved, and then as I watched new things from it that were really bad, try to convince myself that it was good. The only time I think I've ever really done that was with the Star Wars prequels. That's probably when I did that. All right. Next up, we got Mark Sip, who writes, last few months, you've mentioned visiting a few different presidential libraries. Yep. Just wondering, do you have a particular interest in history, presidential or otherwise? I do love history. I've always loved history. And I think inspirational men fascinate me. And so it was my wife, Anne. You know what it was? We went to a concert. Here's what started. We love going to these candlelight string quartet concerts. We've gone to like 5 or 6 of them. Really enjoy them. So about 6 months ago, Anne got us tickets to a candlelight string quartet concert. And it was being held in the Richard Nixon Presidential Library. And we went and we're like, this place is really cool. And we looked around and saw some fascinating things and we're like, okay. So anyway, then Anne took a trip, I think, to Boston for work. And she went to the JFK one. And she said, John, we got to start going to all of these. So then when she came back, we went and visited the Ronald Reagan one, which was very, very cool. Very cool. So we've now been to and then recently we went to Boston again and I got to go to the JFK one, which was just incredible. They actually have Air Force One in there, which was nuts. So I've been to the Ronald Reagan one. I've been to the Nixon one, been to the JFK one. The next one up for us is going to be, we're going to take a trip to Chicago so we can go to the new Obama Presidential Museum. Really looking forward to that. Then at some point we're going to go hit Texas, because I think there's like three presidential libraries in Texas. So we're going to go try to hit those. And but yes, I am kind of fascinated by, I'm fascinated by history. All right. Thanks for that, Mark. Next up, Robert Presser writes, do you have a favorite movie rule you like to live by? Mine is enjoy the little things from Zombieland. It's a thing we forgot sometimes, but it's so true. Do I have a rule? I mean, I have a lot of different rules for myself. Like, for instance, I have a rule that says I don't have to see a movie I don't want to see. Like early in my career, I felt I put myself under the pressure that I had to see everything. And I just realized after years, I don't have to see everything. So I give myself permission. Like, I'm not going to go see the live action Moana. I heard from enough people that it's bad and so I'm just not going to go see it. I give myself permission to not do that. But when it comes to watching a movie, here's my all-time rule. And for those of you who've watched or listened to me for a long time, you will have heard me say this before. It's totally okay to have expectations, to have theories, to have some apprehensions, all that kind of stuff about a movie. But my ultimate movie going rule is this. When I get to the movie theater and I'm about to walk through those doors and go to my seat, take all those expectations, take all those theories, take all those apprehensions, take all the positive feelings and all the negative feelings, and leave that baggage shit at the door. Don't bring it into the movie theater with you. I really try, and I even try to visualize this. Generally speaking, when I go in and sit down in a movie theater, I look at the movie screen and I just picture in my mind's eye a blank sheet of paper. It's like, I'm just going to judge this movie on its own merits, not about what I thought about it, not about my excitement, not about my skepticism, just the movie, nothing but the movie on its own merits. And that's what I try to do. I'm human, so I'm sure there are times that I fail to do that 100%, but that's my goal. That's my rule for myself. So that's what I try to do. Anyway, thanks for the question. Good question, Robert. Next up, Art House Cinema writes, nice Odyssey video, Johnny boy. Thank you so much. Even though I laugh at you calling Nolan films art, well, all movies are art. You know that, right? Anyway, I recommend Art House World Cinema for you. Maybe not your speed. Oh, child, I've seen more art house cinema than you ever will in your lifetime. I don't talk about it a lot. There's a lot of cinema I don't talk about a lot on here, but slow your roll. All film is art. All film is art. It is. Even the movies that you think are crappy and terrible, all films are art. Made by artists who are creating something out of nothing that speaks to the way they see the world, the way they hope the world can be, the way they fear the world could be, the beautiful things in the world they see, the tragic and hard things they see in the world, the things that bring them joy, the things that bring them fear. All film is art. Whether you like it or not, your preference does not determine what art is, right? And mine doesn't either. Mine doesn't either. All film is art. Now, some of it's better than others, and that's for each one of us to decide on our own, on our own qualifiers, but all film is art. Christopher Nolan's films are art. And as much as it hurts to say, all of Uwe, what's Uwe's last name? He just made the movie with, Boll. That's it. Even Uwe Boll's films are art. They're art too. Not art that I like, but it's art. And that's just that. All right. Next up, Meds D writes, thoughts on no Emmy noms for Star's Homelander. Well, I mean, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, Let me see if I can pull this up here. Where did it go? There it is. Okay, let me see if I can bring this up. The problem that you always come into with things like this is, let me see if I can get back to the actual, I just want to bring this up here. Okay. So I'm going to I think they put The Boys under drama. I think they do because The Boys, I think, got nominated for Best Drama Series a couple of years ago. So if we go for Best Lead Actor, here's the problem. Who do you replace on this list with Anthony Starr? And Anthony Starr was great. But I definitely don't bump Noah Wyle for Anthony Starr in there. I definitely don't bump Rufus Sewell for the diplomat off there. I definitely don't bump Mark Ruffalo for his performance in Task off there. I don't bump off Sterling K. Brown, and I don't bump off Gary Oldman. See, that's the thing. When it comes, that's why it is so hard, particularly for Oscars, but also for Emmys. Because not only do you have to give the performance of your lifetime, you also got to hope that there weren't 5 other guys who also gave the performance of their lifetime, right? Yeah, so would it have been cool to see Anthony Starr get some awards love? Yes. Was Anthony Starr absolutely phenomenal as Homelander? Yes. Do I have a problem with those 5 guys getting the nomination over Anthony? I don't have a problem with it. They were all ludicrously good. Ludicrously good. So yeah, it would have been cool to see it, but no, I don't have any problem with him not getting nominated. That takes nothing away from his performance, by the way. Nothing. That's more a commentary on those 5 other guys. All right. Robert Presser writes, the Warner Brothers Paramount merger is feeling like a sad real life ending to the last episode of The Studio. Have a great day. Bring on the filthy. Yeah. You know what? The closer we get to this, I really do feel, and I could be totally wrong, but I really do feel that's how this is going to resolve. I think because we're seeing it happen in Europe, Paramount has agreed to divest themselves of some of the assets they're going to be acquiring. So that's going to satisfy the Europeans. And I think the same thing's going to happen in North America. I think these AGs, these attorney generals are going to be bringing their lawsuit. And I think to settle it, Paramount is going to say, fine, tell us the biggest problems. We'll address those. And maybe that means they divest themselves of CNN. Maybe it means they divest themselves of HBO Max, although that's a harder one to imagine. Maybe they divest themselves of TNT. Maybe they divest themselves of whatever, and they'll settle. And then the AGs are going to go, okay, we're satisfied. And Paramount will go, great, let's move forward with the merger. I think that's how this is going to resolve. Again, I don't know that. I could be totally wrong, but I think that's probably how it's going to resolve itself. All right. Next up, Fargonaut writes, hey, John, thanks for sharing the funny story about your dad snoring the other day. The other day that I was here, it really made me laugh. Do you have any other funny stories to share, even about your own snoring? Well, again, I don't really have a snoring thing. I wouldn't be embarrassed by it if I did, because a lot of people snore, but I don't. My other favorite story let me tell another one about my dad. One of my favorite stories with my dad, and fuck, I might cry when I tell this one, but my other favorite story with my dad is I developed this tradition where when I would go home to Canada at Christmas time, we would get either just my mom, but sometimes my whole family, but always with my mom, but at least sometimes with my whole family. And so, and go to the movies. I would take my family to the movies, right? So this one year, a few years ago, and my dad doesn't go to the movie theater a lot. Let's just put it that way. He really doesn't go to the movie theater much. So we go to the movies, and I think we went to go see The Last Jedi. We went to go see The Last Jedi. No. It was The Rise of Skywalker. No, it was The Last Jedi. That's what it was. Went to go see The Last Jedi. And I got my mom, my dad, my siblings, my sister's husband. We're all there and watching that movie. Okay, so we go to the movie theater, right? And remember, my dad does not go to the movie theater much. And so before we go into the movie theater, we're in the foyer, and me, my mom, and a couple of my siblings were like, "Where's Dad?" And we're looking around. And picture in your mind a movie theater lobby, all the hustle and bustle and people going to their theaters and talking and all that kind of stuff. Me and my family are over here going, "Hey, where's Dad?" And as soon as we say, "Hey, where's Dad?" we hear this one bellowing, loud Italian voice that like was a record drop and made everything else in theater go silent when I heard my dad's voice yell, $18. And immediately I'm like, that's my dad. And I'm like running over the concession stand because like a popcorn, I think it was a medium popcorn and medium drink was $18. So, because my dad was getting my mom, who this was just shortly before she passed away, was getting her some popcorn and soda. And my dad, who does not go to the movie theater, like, all you hear is his voice, $18. And I had to, and I thought my dad was going to rip into this poor kid at the concession stand. And I'm like pulling my wallet out. I'm like, here you go. Don't just ignore him. And just paying this poor kid. I'm like, Dad, come on. What's just popcorn and soda? Like, yeah, Dad, I know. That's just what it costs. And I'm like trying to drag my dad over to the movie theater to go. And as it turns out, my dad ended up absolutely loving The Last Jedi. Go figure. He loved the movie. He totally did. But yeah, if you ever hear me do an inside joke of just going, $18, that was my dad. You just had to be there. It was so embarrassing. But that, again, my dad hadn't gone to the movie theaters a lot. So there was that. All right. Next up, the Daily Prophet writes, "Hey, John, would the Paramount and Warner Brothers merger affect the future of the Harry Potter TV series?" No, because they're already in production. And in reality, I mean, that's getting all this very rich IP is one of the reasons Paramount wants to buy Warner Brothers. It's already in productions. Contracts are already signed. And so, no, it really won't have any impact on, I mean, maybe there could be influence on season 4 and season 5. I mean, who knows? But generally speaking, it doesn't have any impact on the Harry Potter series. All right. Next up, Machete Hawk writes, "Could a cinematic universe like Marvel have existed in a previous decade, or would it have been too much for pre-internet audiences to keep up with? Were the 2000s the earliest the MCU could exist?" You know what? That's a very interesting question. I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes. I think they could have existed in like cinematic universes could have existed even without the internet. But I think you're right. Like, I think the internet definitely has made the ground more fertile for being able to promote and push shared cinematic universe stuff in films and all that kind of stuff. But when you look back, it's not like franchises only came into being with the dawn of the internet, right? Like, Star Wars is kind of in a way its own cinematic universe. I mean, Star Wars is Star Wars, there you go, but like Marvel is Marvel. And I think the very fact that you could have Smokey and the Bear, or Smokey and the Bandit, BJ and the Bear, the fact that you could have like Any Which Way But Loose, and you could have Star Wars movies, and you could have Godfather franchises. I think the very fact that even pre-internet, we had legitimate movie franchises, Cannonball Runs and all that kind of stuff. I think because cinematic universes is not that big of a step away just from the general franchise idea. I'll say, I think it's a really good question. I'm going to say yes. I think cinematic universes could have existed prior to the internet. All right. Next up, we got Quay. I hope I'm saying that right. Anyway, Quay writes, "I thought Toy Story 5 was the weakest, but that's more a compliment to the others. How does directing animation compare to directing live action?" It really doesn't I mean, I've never directed an animated thing, but I think on its surface is really not that much of a difference other than you're not sitting on a set, right? Like you're still in the room with the actors, like directing their performance when they're doing their voices. You're watching the dailies. You're doing all, I honestly don't think it's that much of a difference. I remember Zack Snyder talking about this once. Well, I was talking to Zack about it once. He was at this party that I would throw every year at Comic-Con years ago called the Masters of the Web Party. And Zack came to one, and he had just been doing this movie that I think is most other than Man of Steel, which is my favorite Superman movie, but one of his really underrated films is a movie called Legend of the Guardians, the Owls of Gaul. I think it's a very underrated movie, to be honest with you. I don't think it's one of the great animated films of all time. Don't get me wrong, but I think it deserves a lot more love than it gets. I thought it was a really, really fun, very, very good movie. But I remember asking him about it once, like, is it a totally different thing to directing, something like 300? And he's like, not really. I mean, there's the big obvious difference that you're not on a set, but all the other functions, it's still doing the same thing. You're still piecing this movie together. So again, as somebody who has never directed an animated film, so I can't really speak of it, from directors I've talked to, it's really not that big of a difference. All right. Good question, man. Thanks for writing that in. All right. Spinal B writes, hey, John, on the topic of great movies that underperform due to little or no marketing, why do you think a studio decides not to invest knowing how important it is, even if they believe in the project? Well, most of the time, it's wildly expensive. There's a lot of times that movies spend more money on the marketing than they do on making the movie itself. I'm not saying that's normal, but it happens a lot. There are a lot of movies that you'll see that the marketing budgets were actually bigger than the budgets to make the movie themselves. And every dollar you spend on marketing is more money your movie needs to make at the box office. And sometimes you just don't have the money to do it. Like if a studio says, hey, we've got $45 million we can make this movie with, right? And let's say they're also the distributor and all, like, that means, well, we'll give you like 25 million to make the movie and then 20 million. We don't have another $100 million to give you. And then, by the way, if we give you $100 million to promote that movie, now instead of that movie needing to make, $68 million to break even, now it needs to make $230 million to break even, right? So you can't lose sight of the fact, and despite popular belief, most studios, most production companies do not have unlimited money. They've got a budget and they've got to be careful. So yeah, it's a ludicrously expensive thing. And then you got to decide, if we pour another $100 million into it, will that get us another $150 million in box office? And sometimes the answer to that is yes. And sometimes the answer to that is no. But yeah, never lose sight of that, dude. Marketing films is stupidly expensive, quite often more expensive than making the movie itself. So that's probably why sometimes. Now, that doesn't excuse bad marketing, right? Because we've seen movies that have just a lot of marketing, but it was bad marketing. That's different. That's different altogether. But yeah, just never lose sight about how expensive it is to market those things. Good question, Spinal. All right, next up, Quantum of Zen writes, the Ellisons have things well in hand. All the post-merger Paramount WB needs to do is make sure that each of their 30 scheduled movies make $1 billion. They'll be debt-free in 3 years. Easy peasy. Again, listen, let me bring up my calculator here. I gotta do some because I know I did the calculations on this before, but I'll do the calculations on my phone instead of on my computer. Okay, so at $80 billion, okay, So there's 8,000, there's 80,000, there's 800,000, there's 8 million, there's 80 million, 800 million, 8 billion, 80 billion. Okay. Because Paramount now is listed as junk bond status, they don't get the really easy light interest rates on their debt. So let's be kind. Let's say they're going to have to be paying 5% on that debt, okay? That means every year they're going to have to spend, $4 billion in debt every year. That means every month, every single month, Paramount is going to have to be spending $333 million just in interest on that debt. $333 million every single month on that debt. If you want to break it down into weeks, every single week, Paramount on an $80 billion debt, every single week, Paramount has to pay $83 million in interest. Let me say that again. Every single week, Paramount falls another $83 million into the hole. $80 billion is a lot of money. That basically means what? $13 million a day. $13 million per day in interest. It's a hard one. It's a hard one. So let's see what their plan is to get out of this debt. All right. Next up, tell the truth. No Fantastic Four movie, but a Thunderbolts one is a choice. Thunderbolts is the better movie. Sorry. Thunderbolts is the better movie. I liked Fantastic Four. I liked it. But Thunderbolts is the better movie. I love that movie. Obviously, it's all subjective. You may feel that maybe to you, Fantastic Four was better than Thunderbolts. Totally fair. But you're asking me. And to me, no question, Thunderbolts was the better movie. But remember, just because, number one, that list that we read off may not be right at all. But number two, even if that list is accurate, right? Even if that list is accurate, that doesn't mean they're not going to do a Thor 5. That doesn't mean they're not going to do a Doctor Strange 3. And it doesn't mean they're not going to do another Fantastic Four. It just, according to that rumor and that report, these are going to be the first ones they come out of the gate with, but I'm sure they're going to do a Fantastic Four too. Like, I don't think, like, to tell the truth, my film loving brother, I don't think you have to worry about that. I absolutely think we're going to get a second Fantastic Four movie. It just sounds like if this report is right, and it might not be, they're just going to do a Thunderbolts one first, which makes sense because Thunderbolts came out before Fantastic Four. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. But if you had to choose one, I think you choose Thunderbolts. I just thought that was the better movie. And that's not taking anything away from Fantastic Four. I like that one too. I really did. All right, next up. Tomas writes, which franchise is in bigger trouble if their next big $200 million movie / series fails? Starfighter or Lanterns? Well, definitely not Lanterns, because Lanterns is a TV show, right? Like, if Lanterns is the best show of the year, that by itself does not save the DCU. And if Lanterns is terrible, that doesn't sink the DCU. The reality is it's not as important as the things that are coming out in the movies. Starfighter is another issue. Now, I have all the belief in the world in Starfighter. It's got great writers, a great director, a great cast, got a lot of belief in it. But if Starfighter sucks, coming off of Mandalorian and Grogu, which was not very good, and coming off of The Rise of Skywalker, which was garbage. Like, Mandalorian and Grogu being a bad movie, I think we can take a mulligan on it because it's just an extension of the TV show. I don't really think it was that vital. It would have been good if it was good, but it wasn't. So whatever. Starfighter, that's got to be good. It doesn't have to be the best Star Wars movie. It doesn't have to be as good as Rogue One, but it's got to be good. It's got to be good. If Lanterns isn't good, that's unfortunate. It hurts a bit, but it's a TV show. It's not going to, I don't think it's going to matter all that much in the long term. But Starfighter? Yeah, Starfighter's got to be good, man. You got to make Starfighter good. You have to. Anyway, good question, Thomas. Or Tomas. All right, next up. This is the final question. D.A. Hampton writes, will Supergirl flopping and failing affect Gunn's plans for her to be one of DCU's 4 pillar characters? Do you think she can successfully lead future solo films, or will she be like the MCU's Hulk? No, absolutely. She can. Look, all you need is one good movie. The problem with the Supergirl movie, which you know I didn't like, but the problem wasn't the character itself. The problem was it was a bad script. Hard to recover from a bad script. Yeah, so 100%. I 100% believe that in the hands of a better screenwriter and all that kind of stuff, you could look, winning cures everything. Winning cures everything. It just does. So I think, yes, it can still be. It can fail again too, 100%. But the question you asked is, will Supergirl flopping make James Gunn rethink? No, I don't think so. Not at this point. Supergirl is a loss. No doubt about it. Superman was a huge win. Supergirl's a big L, is what it is. But is that character still have all the elements it needs to be a one of 4 pillars of the it still can. 100% it can. Question is, will it? Will they come back from this with the character? Not really sure, but we'll have to see. All right, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. Big thanks, of course, as always, to Robert Meyer Burnett, to our special guest, Gotham Geek Girl, also known as Nadia Martinez. Great having her on as well. And we look forward to seeing you guys back here again tomorrow. We'll look forward to seeing you then. Big thanks to the thousands of you guys in the live chat, to those of you who sent in the super chat questions. Number 1, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number 2, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. That'll do it for me, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.